Members, we're now going to go to file item 87, Senator Leno. Oh, okay. Okay, we'll keep rolling here. File item 84, Senator De Leon. File item 84, okay. Pass on file. Item 85, Senator Block. Oh, sorry, okay. File item 86, Senator Anderson. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 759 by Senator Anderson, an act relating to prisoners.
SB 759 has been significantly amended coming out of the Appropriations Committee, and now is a bill that deals strictly with earned credits in the Security Housing Unit. This bill will only, this bill will only restore credits for inmates if they are free of disciplinary problems and have accepted the programming that's been offered to them to improve their lives. In addition to this, the bill formerly had data collection portions in it. Last session, the Public Safety Committee held joint hearings regarding the use of solitary CDCR. When asked basic questions regarding the use of solitary confinement, had no answers. They'd even make an attempt to come up with the answers. They simply didn't have them. While the use of these credits in the SHU may provide incentives for those with behavior problems, it's meaningless if we don't have the actual data for what's going inside. So here's essentially what's happened. We want to give a path to people who want to improve their lives and return to society as productive citizens. And if a person goes into the SHU, they may spend more than a year in the SHU. In fact, they can spend 10 years in the SHU. But when they finish their sentence, they're released, whether they received programming or not. So what we're doing is we're denying these people an opportunity to improve themselves. We're denying them the opportunity to return to society as productive members. But without data, without the very data that tells us whether the programming's working or not working, this bill is kind of half-cocked. It doesn't really deliver on our promises to those serving in prison. It doesn't deliver on our promises to society. So I'm going to move ahead with this bill, but I certainly understand if my Republican colleagues can't get there with me, because I don't believe the bill fully supports everything that it needs to do, and I'm going to look for creative ways to fix that so that we give society the best chance of returning prisoners to society that are productive members of our community. And I want to give those prisoners who have a change of heart, who are working diligently to return to society as productive citizens, that stepping stone that they need. They can't get there by themselves. Part of the reason why they're in prison is because they already failed to make wise choices. And I think that helping them learn how to make those decisions in a thoughtful manner that leads to a productive life for everyone is in everyone's best interest. And so I'm going to urge that we allow this bill to move forward, but I want to make sure that my colleagues on the Republican side also understand that if they can't get there, that's okay too, because we're making our best efforts for society and we're doing the best we can, but admittedly, this bill isn't half the bill it once started as. So I urge an aye vote.
Thank you, Senator Anderson. Senator Nielsen?
I certainly respect Senator Anderson's attempt here. And if it were a bill that's nothing more than a study of rehabilitation programs, well, we're going to find a common ground. The difference and difficulty I have, you don't just walk into prison and get into the secured housing unit or the psychiatric unit. You have some serious behavioral problems. In terms of the psychiatric cases, those are psychiatric individuals who require psychiatric treatment. In terms of most in the secured housing unit, they're just evil human beings. And many in my opinion, ladies and gentlemen, and I've dealt with an awful lot of them, are far beyond rehabilitation. They are ordering killings and running their gangs from that 8x10 cell in the secured housing unit. And because of institutional security issues, because of their pervasive, persistent behavior, they have absolved themselves of having any really much rehabilitative opportunities other than self-study, because they are unsafe to staff, they are unsafe to other inmates, they are unsafe to the security of the institution. And that's why there are secured housing units. If we can figure some way to do some in-cell behavior, and if they can demonstrate that they, through cell study, have gotten something and to be evaluated, well, I'm willing to take a look at that. But I've seen too many of them, ladies and gentlemen, and if you ever want to get an idea who they are, just go to the secured housing unit at Pelican Bay State Prison and spend a little bit of time. I would urge a no vote with all due respect to my esteemed colleague.
Thank you, Senator Nielsen. Senator Hancock.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. As the joint author of this bill with Senator Anderson, I was proud to be a co-author with him on this same bill last year when it was much more comprehensive. I want to join him in urging a yes vote on this bill. It is not the bill it was. We required data and information on who is in solitary confinement, how they got there, how long they've been in there, and whether they're released directly into the community without the opportunity for program and self-improvement. Unfortunately, that was removed from the bill on appropriations. But the other piece of the bill is still very good and very practical. It says that you can get good time credits for completing rehabilitative programs or for having good behavior and no disciplinary actions while you're in solitary confinement. It gives people hope that they can work their way out. And I would point out that there are two ways to get into solitary confinement in our state. One is misbehavior of some kind, and we understand that. The other is that you were named as a gang member by someone. Until last year, the only way to get out of solitary confinement, if you were labeled a gang member, was to name other people who were gang members. Now, we know criminal justice research tells us this is not a good way to get reliable information, that you can't get out unless you name the names of people we're going to put in. That has now changed. CDCR is not doing that anymore. What we need to do is pass this part of the bill, which does allow people the hope of rehabilitation and an incentive to change their lives and behavior. And Senator Anderson and I and others are going to keep working on getting the information that we need to make good decisions by knowing what's really happening behind those closed doors. So I would urge you to vote aye on this measure. It will take us a step forward in getting a better and more effective prison system that will enhance public safety.
Thank you, Senator Hancock. Members, any further debate or discussion? Seeing none, Senator Anderson, would you like to close?
I would. First of all, I'd like to thank my joint author for her thoughtful commentary and what she added. I also want to address two quick items that I think it's important for people to understand. The people that are serving in the SHU, the secured housing unit, are going to be released into our communities. It's just a matter of time. We can't hold them there forever. So somebody could have a term of 10 or 20 years, and they spend all 20 years or all 10 years in the SHU without any programming, without anything. And then they're going to be returned to our neighborhoods. And we're going to be surprised when they reoffend and return to our prisons? See, I believe that everybody that gets sentenced to our prisons must work their way out of the prison. They must show that they have a change of heart. They must demonstrate that they've improved themselves, that they've given themselves a fighting chance to make it on the outside without returning to crime. And I think that if our opinion is that we just want to throw people in jail and lock the key and forget about them, that's one strategy. But if we want to empower those people to have some chance at a productive life in society, instead of this turntable that keeps releasing them and then reincarcerating them, then we've got to change what we're doing. And we need data to figure out what works and what doesn't. But the strategy of just throwing the key away and leaving these people to rot doesn't make any sense to me. Now look, there are serial murderers. There are murderers who are preoccupied. First, they're on death row. And yes, they should never return to our society. They will never improve. Or they have some psychological problem and they can never overcome that. There are some people that are evil to their core. But that's not who I'm talking about. I'm talking about those prisoners who are going to be released. Maybe not today, but some tomorrow in the future, they will be released. And the question of us is, do we allow them to come out without any programming, or do we create a system that rewards those who work to improve themselves and who want to return to society as productive citizens? And I believe in punishment, but I also believe in redemption. And I also believe that some people have a change of heart, whether it's something they come to on their own, or whether it's a change of heart because a higher being touched them. Either way, I want to give them a fighting chance to do the right thing. And I think that our communities deserve to have people coming out of our prisons who want to do the right thing. I don't want to release these people when I know that they have next to no chance of living life as a productive citizen. I don't want to put criminals into our streets that are going to reoffend. And none of these choices are easy. But I certainly understand how this is a difficult vote for my Republican colleagues, and I am not offended if you have to vote no, and I certainly appreciate it, and I certainly appreciate that we got to be tough on crime, and I'm not advocating for that, but there has to be additional answers, and I'm searching for those answers, and I want to thank my joint author for working so closely with me. I urge and I vote.
Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen. I. Anderson. I. Bates. I. Bell. I. Berryhill. I. Block. I. Cannella. De Leon. I. Fuller. No. Gaines.
Aye.
I. Galgiani. I. Glazer. I. Hall. I. Hancock. I. Hernandez. I. Hertzberg. I. Hill. I. Hueso. Huff. No. Jackson. I. Lada. I. Leno. I. Leva. I. Liu. I. McGuire. I. Mendoza. I. Mitchell. Monning. I. Morlock. I. Morrell. No. Wynn. No. Nielsen. No. Pan. I. Pavley. I. Roth. I. Runner. Stone. No. Vidak. No. Wykowski. I. Wolk. Wolk, aye.
Secretary, call absent members.
Cannella. Hueso. Mitchell. Runner.
Ayes 29, no 7. Measure passes. Members, we're now going to move to file item 87. Senator Leno. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 763 by Senator Leno, an act relating to home furnishings.
Senator Leno.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, in The summer of 2013, you may remember that our governor updated our state's fire safety standard, known as Technical Bulletin TB 117, to the 21st century. In effect, what it did was allowed for home furnishing products, consumer products, to be able to comply with our fire safety standard without necessarily using flame retardants. It would let the free market work. Manufacturers want to include them, they may to meet the standard. If they don't want to, they can do it in other ways. And the reason the governor did this is because these chemicals are associated with cancer and decreased fertility, hormone disruption, lower IQs, hyperactivity, though it is not yet determined. There is a growing body of evidence. There's even association with autism. So these chemicals are known to be dangerous, and additionally, what we do know is that when they burn, they convert to known carcinogens, dioxin and furan, and as a result, our firefighters are dying of exponentially higher rates of cancers caused by these very chemicals because of their exposure to them while they're on the job. So last year, given the new fire safety standard, all well and good, but if consumers purchasing these products can't tell the difference between a product with or without, it doesn't really serve its full purpose. So this legislature and the governor's signature put into law a requirement to simply label those products as in compliance either with or without the chemicals. We're back this year attending to juvenile products and products for our toddlers, those most young and vulnerable. We're talking about things like changing pads, nursing pillows, strollers, cribs, and such. The Bureau of Home Furnishings has determined these products not to be fire risks. So you might ask, why do we need to label them? And they wouldn't have these flame retardants if they're non-fire risk. The fact is that they still do, because most of the products we're talking about here have a polyurethane foam in them, and they buy it as a component part, and there is still these chemicals being used sometimes. So we're just, again, on the same premise. Let the free market work by allowing consumers to be able to make informed choices. This bill will require a label to, again, say that this product either does or does not have these chemicals in them. Products that our youngest children have the most daily intimate contact with, even the little nap pads they put their heads on multiple times a day. That's what the bill does. I ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Senator Leno. Members, any debate or discussion? Seeing none, Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen? Aye. Anderson? No. Bates? No. Bell? Aye. Berryhill? No. Block? Aye. Cannella? Aye. De Leon? Aye. Fuller? No. Gaines?
Aye.
Aye. Galgiani? Aye. Glazer? Hall? Aye. Hancock? Aye. Hernandez? Aye. Hertzberg? Aye. Hill? Aye. Wesso? Aye. Huff? No. Jackson? Aye. Lada? Aye. Leno? Aye. Leva? Aye. Liu? Aye. McGuire? Aye. Mendoza? Aye. Mitchell? Aye. Monning? Aye. Morlock? No. Morrell? No. Wynn? Aye. Nielsen? No. Pan? Aye. Pavley? Aye. Roth? Aye. Runner? No. Stone? No. Vidak? Aye. Wachowski? Aye. Wolk? Wolk, aye.
Secretary, please call the absent members.
Glazer? Aye.
Ayes 30, noes 10, measure passes. Members, we're now going to move to file item 88. Senator Wolk, Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 765 by Senator Wolk, an act relating to energy.
Senator Wolk.
Thank you, Mr. President. 765 will require the California Public Utilities Commission by 2017 to create an independent California Market Transformation Administrator to coordinate the state's energy efficiency market transformation activities. Market transformation activities aim to create structural changes in the market leading to long-term energy savings. There are studies that have shown that California has not done as good a job as other states have done, and in many cases, they've created this kind of independent administrator. 765 will not take away the administration of energy efficiency programs from the IOUs, but will build upon and work with the existing IOU energy efficiency programs. It's supported by the Utility Reform Network, the Office of Ratepayer Advocates, and others. The PUC will be meeting this month to consider the legislation, and the issue is whether the PUC has existing legal authority. There may be some question as to whether they have insufficient authority to move in that direction. So that's why this is moving forward, and I ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Senator Wolk. Members, any debate or discussion? Seeing none, Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen? Aye. Anderson? Bates? No. Bates? No. Bell? Aye. Berryhill? No. Block? Aye. Canella? No. De Leon? Aye. Fuller? No. Gaines?
No?
No. Galgiani? Glazer? Hall? Aye. Hancock? Aye. Hernandez? Aye. Hertzberg? Aye. Hill? Aye. Hueso? Aye. Huff? No. Jackson? Aye. Lara? Aye. Leno? Aye. Leva? Aye. Liu? Aye. McGuire? Aye. Mendoza? Aye. Mitchell? Monning? Aye. Morlock? No. Morrell? Wynn? No. Nielsen? No. Pan? Aye. Pavley? Aye. Roth? Runner? No. Stone? Vidak? No. Wachowski? Aye. Wolk? Wolk, aye.
Secretary, call the absent members.
Galgiani? No. Glazer? Mitchell? Morrell? No. Roth? No. Stone? No. Mitchell? Aye. Glazer, no.
Ayes 23, no 17. Measure passes. Members, we're now going to move to file item 30. Senator De Leon. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 548 by Senator De Leon, an act relating to child care.
Senator De Leon.
Thank you, colleagues. SB 548, the Raising Child Care Quality and Accessible Act, is before us at this moment. With nearly 1 in 4 Californians lacking basic standards of food and shelter, our poverty rate is staggering. Tackling poverty and income inequality is not only about creating jobs, we also need to support working families so they can be able to take those jobs. Without reliable child care, they can't leave to go to work, and without work, they cannot provide for their families. High-quality early child care education, ECE, strengthens the economy by helping these families to work and helping their children thrive. This bill will increase the availability of subsidized child care spaces for the state's poorest families. A broad coalition of advocates for children and families, educators, as well as labor organizations, civil rights organizations, and interfaith organizations all support this bill because it is an important piece of our overall economic puzzle. For those reasons, Mr. President, as well as colleagues, I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Thank you, Senator De Leon. Members, debate or discussion? Senator Jackson?
Thank you. I know Senator Anderson will be pleased to hear that this is also part of the Women's Caucus initiative on creating a stronger California, and I'm sure men are very interested in this issue too, so I'm very optimistic we'll get this, we'll get support for this measure. This is a measure that is critically important to making sure that we have quality, affordable, accessible child care to the people of California. You know, we have more and more women in particular who are either the primary, the sole, or certainly one of the 2 key breadwinners in a family. Women today, very few of them work just for pin money, as some had done many, many years ago. This is money to put food on the table. In order to do that, we have to have child care and early education for our young ones who otherwise will cause those parents to stay at home, be on welfare, be unable to work, not care for them properly. So this is the kind of situation where we want to inspire a stronger California. We want to make sure that California gives opportunity to women to be able to put that food on the table, to be able to provide for their families. But we need to have accessible, quality early childhood education to do that. And we know, as we have studied the brain, as we have been able to map the brain, that the critical ages in a child's development to assure that they will be able to maximize their intellect and their opportunities in life, that the critical age is from 0 to 3. 0 to 3. And so we have to ask ourselves, what kind of care and early education do we have for the 0 to 3 age? And the answer is way short of what we need. And so this bill, and I want to thank Senator De Leon for his commitment to advancing the issue of child care this year and going forward. I want to thank him for bringing this issue to the forefront along with Speaker Atkins. We recognize how critically important it is to provide this opportunity so that when children get into school, they're all starting at basically the same place, because we know if you talk to teachers today, talk to parents, but certainly if you talk to teachers, they know when children start school which children have had quality early education and which ones have not. And those who have not had that educational opportunity are the ones that start way behind the starting line and never catch up. And so if we want to reduce the costs associated with education, where we are remediating and remediating and remediating, the opportunity exists now to provide that kind of support, that kind of education, so they all start at the same starting line and so that they can all help us maximize the economic opportunities and so that they can all have an opportunity to live the great California dream. I urge an aye vote.
Thank you, Senator Jackson. Senator Fuller?
Point of order.
Yes.
I'd like to address a question to the desk, but I'm under the impression that, and I know we're all tired, and I'm sure it's not intentional, but maybe a reminder that we are not referring to our members by name, whether it's positive, whether it's negative, whether we read into it, whether it's positive or negative. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes. Yeah, if members could
So I
just
feel that
refrain from using other members' name when they're discussing issues on the floor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Fuller. Senator Nguyen.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today, I have to rise respectfully in opposition of SB 548. You've heard me numerous times since I've been here. Child care is one of my biggest issues that I want to champion. As mentioned, both of my two children right now, 4 and 2, are in daycare. One at 8 months, starting at infant at 8 months, the other one at 6 months. And the 8 months and 2 months, 6 months at the time, former Supervisor Pat Bates and Supervisor John Morlock knows this, the two current senators who serve me in Orange County. I brought my two children at those stages every day, everywhere I went to every one of my meetings. So I understand child care, at least today's child care and the costs of child care. This bill, Californians are already struggling to afford daycare for their children, and this bill will increase the cost by furthering restricting competition and choice of care through unionizing of daycare workers. Members, for those of us who have tried to balance the need of a family with those of a career, You know how difficult it is right now for working families, especially the working middle-class young professional, to afford daycare. Today's San Francisco Chronicle has an article that says the median cost of renting a one-bedroom apartment in San Francisco is now $4,225 a month. The average state cost of childcare is $1,200 a month, which means working families in the Bay Area need to bring home at least $65,000 after taxes just to afford to live and work. This bill makes that challenge even harder by raising the cost of childcare. Under this bill, the cost of childcare will continue to rise, and parents will continue to be forced to make a choice between their career, starting a career, or taking care of their child or children. And most of those choices happen to be, it's the woman. Usually it's the woman in the family who ends up giving up her career to have to take care of the child because because it's just too expensive. This bill would bring up the cost in childcare for every Californian that wants to make sure that their child has the right footing and the right step to start their life. And I agree with my colleagues and that childcare is very important, 0 to 3. For those if you don't know or you've been through it in the past, daycare helps, one, actually build the immune system for a child. I knew nothing about all the kind of different diseases or sickness a child can get. I got them all in the last 5 years via my children. 2, it also helps them build their social ability of connecting with other children. 3, it also helps them to be able to be ready in step with the English language as well. My children, they're bilingual, if not, they're trilingual, actually. My son is learning and trying to speak English, Vietnamese, and Spanish. So I have no problem with having children learn other language, but we want to make sure that childcare is affordable for all family, not just the working poor, and we also need to make sure that the working middle-class family can afford childcare. This bill will increase that cost. It's not going to be $1,200 a month anymore per child. It will be much, much more. I ask for a no vote today.
Thank you, Senator Nguyen. Senator Mitchell?
Sometimes, first of all, I rise in support of the bill. I think sometimes it's a slippery slope. Although we're humans and we bring our own real-life experience to our jobs every day, I think it's sometimes a slippery slope when we make policy decisions based on our own life experience. Many of us here are parents. I am a parent. And there is nothing I would not have done and continue to do to make sure on a personal level that my son has access to the best I can make available. Every parent, regardless of where you are on the socioeconomic spectrum, wants the absolute best for your child. And I believe all parents across the board do that to the best of our ability. One aspect of kind of the three-legged stool of a child's early experience, your child, early care and education provider, your parent, that's missing in the conversation when we talk about affordability is also the profession itself and those who can afford to get the academic training and experience that we want all of those in the early care and education field to have to provide the best possible experience for our children. And if we're not willing to acknowledge that it is a profession worthy of compensation, much like education, those who teach K through 12, then we're not valuing the early care and education experience. As we talk about affordability, that's critical. But we have to look at the other side of the equation. We often discuss in this chambers decisions we make that drive businesses, quote unquote, out of the state. Well, what are we doing to drive professionals out of the ECE profession? When we talk about individuals who utilize services within the Department of Developmental Disabilities, this last year, we've talked about the importance of continuity of the providers in that system. Well, what about the continuity of the ECE professional in our kids' lives, in their classrooms? The field is hemorrhaging. People can't afford to be ECE professionals in the state of California because we won't pay them. Do we value the service they provide to our children? It doesn't appear that we do, based on their less than minimum wage reimbursement rate. So if we want to have a conversation about affordability, if we want to acknowledge that our children are in wonderful early care and education settings where they're learning multiple languages, they're being exposed to words to allow them to keep up with their peers regardless of socioeconomic status, then we have to look at both sides of the equation. And if it's a profession that we honor and value, then we have to show them that in a meaningful, relevant way in today's economy. I stand in support of SB 548.
Thank you, Senator Mitchell. Members, any further debate or discussion? Seeing none, Senator De Leon, would you like to close?
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen. Anderson. No. Bates. No. Bell. Aye. Berryhill. Block. Aye. Cannella. De Leon. Aye. Fuller. No. Gaines.
No.
No. Gaggiani. Aye. Glazer. Hall. Aye. Hancock. Aye. Hernandez. Aye. Hertzberg. Aye. Hill. Aye. Hueso. Aye. Huff. No. Jackson. Aye. Lara. Aye. Leno. Aye. Leyva. Aye. Liu. Aye. McGuire. Aye. Mendoza. Aye. Mitchell. Aye. Monning. Aye. Morlock. No. Morrell. No. Wynn. No. Nielsen. No. Pan. Aye. Pavley. Aye. Roth. Aye. Runner. No. Stone. No. Vidak. No. Wykowski. Wolk. Wolk, aye.
Secretary, please call absent members.
Allen. Aye. Berryhill. Cannella. Glazer. Wykowski. Aye.
Ayes 25, noes 12. Measure passes. Members, we'll now return to motions and resolutions. Seeing none. If there's no other business, Senator De Leon, the desk is clear. Oh, excuse me, Senator Block.
Yeah. I rise for the purpose of a brief announcement. Just been asked to remind you all that tomorrow is Red Sox Day. Hannibeth, nothing to do with Boston. Red Sox Day in honor of the CSU. If you need a pair, I've got 3.
Thank you, Senator Block. Senator De Leon, the desk is clear.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, today we dispensed with 62 measures. So tomorrow we have 41 measures left on the file. Wonderful work. Thank you, Mr. President, for facilitating the process of moving these measures. Thank the colleagues on both sides of the aisle. Tomorrow we have 41 measures to dispense with. We will convene at 9 a.m., 9 a.m. in the morning, not 10, 9 a.m. Thursday morning. And for the members of the Rules Committee, Immediately upon adjournment, we'll be meeting off the floor in 3191.
Great. Thank you, Senator De Leon. The Senate will be adjourned. We will reconvene on Thursday at 9 a.m.